Hi, today we're going to talk about 5 goals to set in your relationship this year to have it be the best ever. My name is Marie Elizabeth Molly. I'm a relationship artist, and I help busy creatives and entrepreneurs become as excited about their relationships as they are about their work so that they can thrive in both. I wanted to talk about goals because it's January and very often we set goals for ourselves, but how many of us actually set goals for our relationships? And just like anything, if you're not improving, if you're not growing, you're actually declining. So it's not to say that you have to push unnaturally to grow, but it is to say that if you keep some attention on what you want to cultivate, what you want to open up further, your relationship stays fresh and interesting and expansive, and it will likely work out longer. Number one, pick something you want to cultivate more of in your relationship. Talk this over with each other and decide on something like spontaneity or fun or better communication or better listening, more expression or better listening. So pick what you want to cultivate more of and decide how often, like frequency, time, if there's a time of day that you want to focus on this thing together, for how long. So if it's an activity, how long do you want to do this activity, etc. So pick a thing and name some specific metrics around it that are trackable. Goal number 2, set up, when you're having this conversation about the thing you want to cultivate more of, set up a quarterly check-in time. Put it on the calendar now, once per quarter, right? So we're January, April, July, September, and December. Make a 30-minute time slot to talk about this thing that you're cultivating more of this year. Why? Because what you track improves, what you track expands, what you keep your attention on grows. And so the quarterly check-ins will help you and your partner keep your attention on this thing that you've decided to cultivate more. It'll keep it in top of mind and in your noticing. So you don't get to the end of the year and ask yourself, like, what was that thing we were going to do? Oh my God, we totally forgot. Avoid that by setting up quarterly check-ins. Number 3, name a typical place that you get into conflict with one another and make it a goal to change that dynamic this year. Just pick one. Don't choose all the fights you have ever had. Just pick the one that you really want to change. So for example, there was a spot that we would often get friction around before traveling, because as my stress level goes up before a trip and I start to go into overwhelm or overfunctioning, then my habit is to begin to become critical. So I start to get critical of my partner because my partner's response to stress is to slow down. So imagine this, you're getting ready for a trip, I'm speeding up, he's slowing down, I'm starting to pick at them. It's not great. It wasn't a really great dynamic. So last year, we really committed to changing it. I did my part to handle my stress and overwhelm, so I set myself up better for trips on my end. And I also began to notice, I began to use my tendency to begin to get critical as a cue. I think I'm starting to get into overwhelm because I hear that criticism beginning in my mind. And then he also began to look at my criticism as an opportunity not to get defensive, not to think I really believe these things about him, but to ask me if I was stressed out. So we turned this dynamic around that used to be a stress point in our relationship, where we would end up, leaving for a trip jangled and not feeling great with each other, and we'd have to repair that and be on the road at the same time. We've actually turned it around so that that just doesn't happen anymore. Our departures are smooth. Number 4, remember that you're on the same team. Commit this year to deciding that you are on the same team. If this is something that you don't natively remember, which for a lot of us, we don't. We have an idea that we have to do things alone, or that we have to struggle to get what we want, or that we have to fight for our desires, or fight for attention, fight to be heard. And all that energy of struggle goes into the relationship. Whereas if you began from a presupposition that you are on the same team and your partner wants to be supportive of you, then when you hit tough spots, it becomes a lot easier to navigate them. If we're arguing, often one of us now will pause mid-argument and say, hey, wait a minute, same team. Like if we remembered that we're on the same team, how would we approach this issue? Instead of arguing about it, what creativity could get unleashed by remembering we're on the same team, where neither one of us is trying to defend our position and be right. And then we find the thing that's actually better for the situation because we've approached it as a team instead of as adversaries. Number 5, instead of trying to change your partner, make it a goal this year to use what bugs you about them as a way to learn more about yourself. In relationship, you mirror for each other both the fantastic and loving and amazing things about you and the spots that are not that great, where you're not super functional or where you default to a childhood habit that you learned or some unhealed wound gets provoked and poked or, So our relationships are a training ground for all of it, both to allow what's already wonderful about us to have more room to show up and allow what is still unhealed and not really resolved in us to be seen and worked through. Make it a practice, make it a goal this year to when something irritates you about your partner, ask yourself, oh, what is this showing about me? Maybe I have a presupposition. Maybe I have a belief here that I need to see. Maybe it's a spot that I'm falling down in my own life. And so I'm judging them about it so that I don't have to actually look at where I don't have my act together. Which is not to say you never adjust or request that your partner change anything. I'm just saying before you get over there in their business, ask what you need to see for yourself and use it for your own growth. Have your relationship develop more and more conscious connection rather than more and more automatic reactivity or unconscious connection. So that was 5 goals to set or cultivate in your relationship this year so that it can be your best year together. I'm Marie Elizabeth Molly, relationship artist. To learn more about 3 blocks you may not be aware of to having the relationship you want, check out the link below and grab my free guide. It'll help you with some of these goals, actually. It'll help you with that. Thank you so much for watching. I'll be back next Tuesday with more tips and have a wonderful week. Bye-bye.